Some women seek attention, others attract it effortlessly. The Sigma female belongs to the latter, an independent force who captivates without trying, who intrigues without effort. She doesn't chase, she doesn't conform, and she certainly doesn't rely on validation to define her worth. Men aren't just drawn to her, they become consumed by the mystery she embodies. She moves differently, detached from the usual social games, immune to empty flattery, and uninterested in proving anything. This unpredictability sparks an obsession. The harder a man tries to win her over, the less of her he seems to grasp. The usual strategies, dominance, charm, or status, fail to impress. And for those who are used to control, this realization is both irresistible and infuriating. Why do men struggle to understand her? What makes her presence so magnetic, yet so impossible to hold on to? And why does the same energy that draws them in ultimately leave them questioning themselves? Today, we break down the psychological paradox of the Sigma female, why she stands apart, why men chase, and why only the truly secure can handle her. If you're ready to unlock the power of self-mastery and attraction on your own terms, subscribe to the Sigma Sisterhood channel, where confidence is natural, independence is celebrated, and power is owned, never given away. 1. The unscripted allure. Why men can't resist the Sigma female. In a world where most people seek attention, the Sigma female commands it, without even trying. She isn't loud, she doesn't seek validation. And yet, she is the one who lingers in a man's mind long after she's left the room. This is the silent siren effect, an attraction so subtle yet so powerful that it draws men in like a gravitational force. Unlike women who actively engage to build interest through flirtation, humor, or body language, the Sigma female does the opposite. She remains composed, observing rather than performing, creating an air of mystery that is impossible to ignore. Men are wired to solve problems, to analyze, to figure things out. When faced with a woman who doesn't follow the usual script, who doesn't seek their approval, who doesn't react predictably, they find themselves caught in a psychological maze. Every glance, every word, every small gesture suddenly becomes something to decode. Was that a smile? Did she hold eye contact a little longer than usual? What is she thinking? The lack of overt signals makes them crave her attention even more. She doesn't play hard to get. She is hard to get, simply because she values depth over distraction. She has no desire to put on a show or prove her worth, and that alone sets her apart. This detachment confuses the male psyche. In a world driven by social validation where likes, comments, and attention fuel self-worth, the Sigma female stands completely outside the game. And that makes men desperate to pull her in. But here's the twist. She's not resisting, nor is she testing. She's simply existing on her own terms. And the more she does, the more they chase. 2. Detachment as a magnet. Why the Sigma female's independence drives men wild. Nothing unsettles a man more than a woman who doesn't need him. For centuries, men have been conditioned to see themselves as providers, offering protection, resources, and status in exchange for loyalty and affection. Their self-worth is often intertwined with how much they can offer a woman. But then, they meet the Sigma female. A woman who is completely self-sufficient, who doesn't seek financial security, emotional dependency, or social status from anyone but herself. This shakes them to their core. When a man meets a woman who seems completely content on her own, his instinct is to test that. He might try to impress her with wealth, power, or charm. But when she doesn't respond the way most women do, when she remains unaffected by the usual tactics, something unexpected happens. Instead of feeling reassured, he feels challenged. Why doesn't she need my validation? Why isn't she impressed by what I bring to the table? What does she know that I don't? It triggers a deep, often subconscious need to prove himself, to break through her detachment and get her attention. The irony? The more he needs that validation, the further she drifts. The Sigma female doesn't play games. She's not withholding attention to manipulate, she simply doesn't rely on it. She is comfortable in her own solitude, selective with her energy, and unwilling to engage in relationships that don't genuinely align with her values. This scarcity mindset is what makes her even more desirable. In human psychology, anything rare becomes more valuable. Because the Sigma female isn't constantly available, because she doesn't seek external approval, her presence becomes something men crave even when they don't understand why. 3. The wealth of solitude. No longer afraid to stand alone. For many, solitude is something to be avoided, a space filled with discomfort, silence, and self-reflection that most people aren't ready to face. But for the Sigma woman, solitude isn't loneliness, it's power. And by the time you enter your 30s and 40s, you no longer fear standing alone. In fact, you thrive in it. Your younger years might have been spent seeking connection, attending social gatherings, and maintaining relationships just to feel included. But now you understand that many of those interactions were simply fillers, temporary distractions that often drained more energy than they provided. Solitude, on the other hand, is where your deepest growth happens. It's in those quiet moments that you gain clarity about your goals, fine-tune your priorities, and develop an unshakable sense of self. While others struggle with constant social validation, you embrace the power of self-sufficiency. This is also where you become truly magnetic. Because you are no longer dependent on external validation, people are drawn to your energy in ways they can't quite explain. You radiate a quiet confidence that makes others take notice. While most people seek approval from crowds, you operate from a place of self-assurance, and that makes you stand out effortlessly. Solitude allows you to master your emotions, plan your future without distractions, and focus on what truly fulfills you. Instead of seeking relationships out of loneliness, you engage only in connections that add to your life, not ones that serve as mere placeholders. And the irony? The more comfortable you become with solitude, the more respect and admiration you command. Because when you no longer need people to complete you, you attract relationships that are based on true connection, not dependency. 4. Financial and emotional independence. The true definition of freedom. There is a distinct shift that happens when you enter your 30s and 40s, a transformation from relying on others for stability to becoming your own unshakable foundation. In your younger years, you may have depended on family, friends, or even romantic partners for financial security, emotional support, or validation. But as you evolve, you realize that true power comes from self-sufficiency. Financial independence is a major turning point. In your 20s, you were likely figuring out your career, testing different paths, and sometimes struggling to make ends meet. But by the time you reach your 30s and 40s, you have built something solid. Whether it's through a successful career, a side hustle, or multiple income streams, you are no longer at the mercy of anyone else's generosity. You choose how to live rather than settling for what you can afford. But even more significant than financial independence is emotional independence. Many people spend their lives looking for someone to complete them, hoping that a relationship will fill the void within. However, as a Sigma woman, you understand that you are your own source of strength. You don't look to others to provide happiness, you create it yourself. This shift is rare. Most people struggle with emotional detachment, fearing loneliness or rejection. But you've freed yourself from those chains. You no longer need constant reassurance from friends, family, or partners. If someone leaves, you don't break. If something doesn't go as planned, you adapt. Your emotions are no longer dictated by external circumstances. This level of independence makes you powerful in ways many can't understand. You no longer fear the loss of a relationship, a job, or an opportunity, because you know you will be fine no matter what. You have built your own stability, both financially and emotionally, and that means you move through life with a confidence that cannot be shaken. When you no longer depend on anyone else to sustain you, you gain the ultimate freedom, the ability to live on your own terms, make decisions without fear, and engage in relationships from a place of want, not need. And that, more than anything, makes your 30s and 40s the most empowering years of your life. 5. The unseen glow-up. Confidence becomes magnetic. There's a common misconception that a woman's prime is in her 20s, that youth is the peak of beauty, attraction, and desirability. But for the Sigma woman, the opposite is true. The real glow-up doesn't happen in the years when you're still searching for yourself. It happens when you step into your full power. In your 20s, you may have spent time trying to fit into beauty standards, following trends, and seeking approval. You may have worried about how others perceived you, feeling the need to prove your worth through external validation. But something changes as you age. You begin to realize that true beauty is not about fleeting trends or youthful appearances. It's about presence. Confidence is what makes you magnetic, and the best part, it's no longer something you try to cultivate. It happens naturally. You no longer seek attention, but it finds you. You no longer chase validation, but people freely offer it. Why? Because nothing is more attractive than a woman who knows who she is. This glow-up isn't just about looks. It's mental, emotional, and spiritual. You move differently. You speak with authority. You no longer feel the need to overshare or prove yourself to anyone. You have mastered the art of mystery, and that makes people drawn to you in ways they can't even explain. Unlike your 20s, where attraction was often based on surface-level qualities, your 30s and 40s bring a deeper allure. Your wisdom, emotional control, and ability to walk away from anything that doesn't serve you set you apart. You exude self-respect, and that energy is impossible to ignore. This is why Sigma women often find themselves commanding more attention in their 30s and beyond than ever before. Not because they try to, but because their energy demands it. When you walk into a room, you don't need to seek approval. You own your presence. And the best part? This glow-up isn't temporary. It's not reliant on youth or societal trends. It's a permanent shift in how you carry yourself. Because once you've stepped into your power, you never shrink yourself again. 6. The power of minimalism. Cutting out the unnecessary for maximum impact. In your younger years, more often seemed better. More friends, more commitments, more social engagements. There was a time when your life may have been filled with excess, too many distractions, too many obligations, and too many relationships that drained you rather than enriched you. But as you step into your 30s and 40s, you realize a powerful truth. Less is more. Minimalism isn't just about decluttering your home. It's about simplifying your entire life. You no longer waste time on things, people, or situations that don't serve you. You refine your circle, removing energy-draining relationships and focusing only on deep, meaningful connections. You stop saying yes out of obligation and only commit to what aligns with your values. This shift isn't always easy, but it is transformational. As a Sigma woman, you no longer engage in meaningless small talk or superficial friendships. You're not interested in being popular. You're interested in being at peace. And so, you begin cutting away what's unnecessary. You stop trying to impress people who don't matter. You remove yourself from conversations that lack depth. You make space for what truly fuels your soul. This newfound simplicity extends beyond relationships and commitments. It impacts how you approach success, productivity, and even material possessions. You focus on quality over quantity. Whether it's your wardrobe, your home, or your goals, everything is intentional. You no longer accumulate just for the sake of it. You curate your life carefully. Perhaps the most profound shift is mental minimalism. You no longer dwell on the past. You don't overthink things that don't deserve your attention. You don't waste energy worrying about things beyond your control. Your thoughts are clear, your priorities are sharp, and your emotional bandwidth is reserved for what truly matters. Many people spend their entire lives accumulating more responsibilities, more commitments, more clutter, only to find themselves overwhelmed and exhausted. But a Sigma woman understands that real power comes from stripping away the unnecessary. She removes distractions, simplifies her environment, and fine-tunes her focus. And because of this, she thrives. When you eliminate the excess, what remains is pure, unshakable strength. 7. The no-nonsense boundary system. Unapologetic self-respect. Your 20s were likely filled with lessons about boundaries, the hard way. You may have tolerated toxic relationships, given too many second chances, and overextended yourself trying to accommodate others. But by the time you reach your 30s and 40s, that cycle ends. This is the stage where you set boundaries without guilt and enforce them without explanation. You no longer entertain disrespect, manipulation, or half-hearted connections. If someone crosses the line, they are removed from your life, immediately and without negotiation. The most powerful part? You don't need to explain yourself. In your younger years, you may have worried about hurting feelings or coming across as too harsh. You may have over-explained your decisions trying to justify your need for space or respect, but not anymore. Now, if someone doesn't understand or respect your boundaries, that's their problem, not yours. This shift intimidates some people. Those who once took advantage of your kindness will suddenly label you as cold or distant. But the reality is, only those who benefited from your lack of boundaries will complain about you having them. And that's exactly why they need to be in place. This no-nonsense approach to self-respect filters out the wrong people and attracts the right ones. You are no longer accessible to just anyone. Your time, energy, and presence are privileges, not entitlements. Those who value you will respect your boundaries, and those who don't will naturally fade away. But the real magic happens when you stop feeling guilty about it. You no longer overextend yourself for people who wouldn't do the same for you. You no longer accept half-hearted efforts from friends, colleagues, or romantic partners. You know your worth, and you protect it. This kind of boundary system is rare. Many people spend their lives compromising their peace to make others comfortable. But not you. You've learned that the only person you owe anything to is yourself. And by standing firm in your standards, you ensure that only those who truly deserve access to your life will remain in it. 8. The unexpected rise in influence, when mystery becomes your greatest strength. There is something undeniably intriguing about a Sigma woman in her 30s and 40s. She doesn't seek attention, yet she commands it. She doesn't overshare, yet people are drawn to her. She moves with quiet confidence, and that makes her unforgettable. In your younger years, you may have felt the need to explain yourself, to share your thoughts, emotions, and plans with the world. But as you evolve, you realize that silence is power. You don't announce your moves, and you don't broadcast your struggles. You simply take action, and the results speak for themselves. This air of mystery sets you apart. People wonder what you're thinking, what you're working on, and where you're going next. And because you don't seek validation, they find themselves offering it freely. While others chase attention, you attract it effortlessly. This is why Sigma women often find themselves rising in influence as they grow older. Whether it's in their careers, personal relationships, or social circles, they become the ones people watch. Not because they seek to be noticed, but because their energy demands it. Your ability to keep things to yourself gives you a strategic advantage. While others reveal their every move, you operate in silence. You don't explain your ambitions to people who don't need to know them. You don't justify your choices to those who don't matter. And because of this, you always remain unpredictable. The world respects those who move with quiet confidence. While others try to prove themselves through noise and constant visibility, you make an impact simply by being present. You understand that not everything needs to be shared, and that makes you valuable. This is why your 30s and 40s are your true power years. While others may feel lost or uncertain, you are just getting started. Your influence grows not because you demand it, but because you own who you are without apology. And that, more than anything, is what makes you truly unstoppable. For the Sigma woman, life doesn't begin when society says it should. It begins when she decides. Your 30s and 40s aren't about decline, they are about emergence. You have moved beyond the insecurities of your younger years. You no longer seek approval. You no longer tolerate nonsense. You no longer engage in anything that doesn't serve you. Instead, you operate with clarity, confidence, and an unshakable sense of self. You have mastered the art of selectivity, choosing only what aligns with your values. You have embraced solitude, finding strength in your own company. You have built financial and emotional independence, giving yourself the ultimate freedom. And most importantly, you have perfected the balance between presence and mystery, making your influence undeniable. If you're in your 30s or 40s and still evolving, congratulations. You are exactly where you need to be. And if the world hasn't realized your full power yet, trust me, they will. Subscribe to the Sigma Sisterhood channel and step into your prime, because the best is yet to come.